Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Oh, good. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing all right. Like most of the country, we're dealing with ridiculous heat indexes. And it's funny because you look at the temperature and you go, "Oh, it's only going to hit 82, 83. Doesn't sound so bad." And then they hit you with the heat index of about 105.
Yeah, yeah. I just saw somewhere that June, I think, broke the worldwide record for the warmest June on record by, I don't know, a tenth or two tenths of a degree, which is something, even though it wasn't that bad here. But the other thing that we've had a whole lot of is the rain here. And fortunately, we're not living up in Vermont and northern New England, but there's a couple of places that I'm very, very close to that I've spent much time in that, like the Weston area and the Londonderry area, and all you folks up in Vermont, we're really feeling for you. I've watched the videos and so on and so forth, and just wishing for a speedy recovery all over who's been affected by all the rain that we've had.
Yeah, the weather's causing problems all over the world, actually, not just the country. Las Vegas has hit record high temperatures. Here in Connecticut, we've gotten flood warnings because of all of the water coming down the rivers from the massive rains further north. Europe has a massive heat wave. They're suffering through record heat. So, yeah, this is going all over the North Hemisphere.
Absolutely. Hopefully, it won't lead to too much about what we're going to talk about today, though.
Absolutely. Last week we talked about how important it is to have a positive mindset and not pay attention to the negativity, but we're going to flip that around this week and actually talk about the damage that having a negative mindset can cause. And there are more and more studies on this because it's not just a matter of missing out on an opportunity or feeling a little down. We are now seeing that having a negative mindset can add to depression, can cause additional stress, which actually has a physical impact on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, obviously, I looked up a little bit about this. You can kind of feel and guess what this is about, but um, negativity affecting the body, negativity sends our body into stress or fight or flight mode. Our bodies are designed to deal with stressful situations by releasing cortisol into the bloodstream, making us more alert and focused. And though some stress is good for us, too much can be detrimental to our health. Extended periods slows digestion, decreases the immune system ability to fight inflammation. And this is why so many negative people are more likely to be more sick than optimists. And it lists a whole bunch of things like headache, chest pain, fatigue, upset stomach, all these different things. But the bottom line is if you dwell on this, we talk about mindset all the time. I mean, your body is totally affected by what your mindset predominantly is. And so any predominantly long period of negativity is going to cause some problems. Some
Abs-
severe.
Absolutely. And you've actually hit on the science behind this. It's all about the cortisol because our bodies are not meant to be in fight or flight for extended periods of time. Most of our listeners, if you watch television, have probably heard them talking about cortisol on diet commercials because one of the things cortisol does is it slows your metabolism and it has you hold on to food in your body longer, leading to obesity. And the whole reason behind all of this is because fight or flight is designed for an emergency. It is telling your body, we have a life and death situation here. We have to focus everything on surviving. And the fact of the matter is, now when we deal with stress, it's very rare that what we're dealing with is an actual life and death emergency. Those don't actually come up all that much. And when they do, they're usually momentary. You know, a car coming at you on a road, an automobile accident. You know, the actual event only takes moments, but our bodies go into fight or flight when we're stressed, when we're looking at everything negatively, and it's prolonged. It's hours, it's days. In some cases, it's months. And that takes a toll on our bodies that it was never meant to handle. So we end up being more obese because our bodies aren't processing food properly, aren't aren't our bodies aren't processing glucose properly. It adds and it becomes self-perpetuating because the more negative you are about your stress, the worse that stress becomes and it snowballs.
Yeah, it's easy for you to get into bad habits, or if you already have them, like drinking and smoking and things like that, just leaning more on that more and more and more, and eating. And obviously, that can really be a big problem. But if it is negativity, your normal body functioning, obviously, it is not a good thing for the reasons that you just explained with the cortisol. I mean, if we are in a constant state of panic and so on and so forth, um, it's it's not good for you, and it's going to shorten things for you. So, I mean, it's really time to either try to get out of it, or if you need it, go out and get help.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've been talking mostly about the more minor situations that our body goes through when dealing with stress. On the more severe side, there's heart attacks and stroke, which, as everybody knows, I mean, that can be one and done. You can get that and pass away from that. So the stress that thinks it's fighting a life or death situation is actually causing a life and death situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, basically having a negative mindset, we always talk about the positive way of looking things, being complimentary and being humble and so on and so forth. But all these negative habits that we talk about reversing, such as cynicism, hostility, filtering out the good, polarized thinking, jumping to conclusions and making assumptions about things, catastrophizing. I mean, this is a real key thing as far as making the cortisol go all the time. And then blaming, emotional reasoning, it's everybody's fault but yours. The fallacy, not accepting change, positive things going on. And really, in the worst case scenario, heaven's reward fallacy. There's nothing to live for out there. So,
Yeah, it's a very serious situation, and unfortunately, in today's world, it's getting worse. I have seen studies where they are describing loneliness as an epidemic. Now, feeling loneliness over a long period of time has its own stressors, has its own health risks, but having a negative mindset reinforces it. We all know somebody. It's usually a second cousin or a acquaintance that you don't see all that often. That when you do talk to them, hey, how are things going? Oh, everything's terrible. This is going wrong. My life just sucks. And the fact of the matter is, there is a reason that you don't spend a lot of time with these people because who wants to be exposed to that over and over again? So if you have that negative mindset, and that's the place that you are, where when someone asks you, hey, how are things going? You start telling them all the terrible things that you're dealing with. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to deal with that because they've got their own stuff going on. And it makes it harder for you to connect with people because you're literally pushing them away. And
Yeah.
we need to connect with people to get past this loneliness and to get past the negative mindset. It's all easier when you're doing it with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always talk about positivity being contagious, but if you let it, negativity can be contagious too, even to positive people. Because I mean, you mentioned it. Um, it's really, really tough, but it does happen to all of us when we run into these type of people. You don't even want to ask them, "How are you doing?" because they're going to tell you. And
Yep.
it's a tough situation to be in. One of the things that we really have going against us the last several years, which in many ways is a positive, though, is social media. Because a lot of people
Yep.
who are on negativity trips, it's very, very easy to just turn that on that old computer, and you can get any dose of negativity in any form that you want, and that's not a good thing to do because that is another form of isolationism, and it doesn't help. Let's put it that way. That's one of the biggest things you can do. If you are in a negative mindset, try turning off the computer for a couple of days and see what happens to you. Much easier said than done, but
Yeah, but social media, for some reason, brings out the worst in people. And people go on the attack because they feel they're safe because they're relatively anonymous. They can say what they want with very few repercussions. There is a comedian, Kathleen Madigan, incredibly funny woman. And in her last special, she talked about the fact that the only time she was ever attacked on social media, and she doesn't talk about politics. It's, it's all podcasts and jokes and talking about her parents, and her stuff is really funny. The only time she was ever attacked on social media is when she tweeted, very simple tweet, "Go St. Louis," because she's from Missouri, so she was rooting for the sports team. And people started attacking her on social media for this and being really nasty. Now, she was able to find humor in this because what they were attacking was so ridiculous. But I have spoken to a number of people just in the past few weeks, and they have posted selfies. And for some reason, people have taken it upon themselves to attack them for being overweight. Now, a lot of these people, yeah, could they lose a pound or two? Sure, but they're not morbidly obese. They're a little overweight. But why would you attack them for that? These are people that are stuck in their own negative mindset. And the only way they think of to make themselves feel better is putting other people down. And this is just making their negative mindset contagious. And it's certainly not helping themselves or anybody else.
yeah, I mean, it is human nature from time to time to compare yourself to others and having an inferiority complex or an insecurity complex, which often leads to this kind of thing. But I mean, most people are able to control that in most cases. But um, if you have to go out there and do that on social media, number one, I think you need a little bit of help. And number two, I would highly recommend if it's on Facebook or places where you can just block people, just turn it off. It's tough, and
Yes.
it is just so easy for somebody to post something negative that will light a fire, so people are going this and that, whatever, or it can get really to an extreme, and they can post something extremely negative, and you have all the people who are really radical about these things going, yeah, 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 let's get this, let's get that, and everything else be damned and type of thing. And obviously we see this a lot in politics and things like that. And it's just it's a horrible thing. So really just instead just looking in the mirror and realizing, hey, I do have a brain here, a mind that can process these things instead of just being a negativity robot here, just getting on the bandwagon. Um, Again, just get away from it for a while. Just just say, all right, enough is enough, and just do that, or put it in perspective. So
Yeah, it's so important And there are a couple of things when you feel yourself just being overwhelmed by the negativity. You need to start doing things to fight that. And it's not just because you're aggravating people around you, it's because it's not healthy for you to have that mindset and deal with that stress. And one of the things that I have found very useful is meditation. And people very often talk about, well, I can't quiet my mind. It's too woo woo. I can't do that. All meditation is, you don't need to get into a fancy yoga position. You don't need to quiet everything around you. Just sit down, put on some headphones, listen to some music you like, and breathe. And just focus on in and out, in and out. And you don't have to do it long. Start by doing it for 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's very easy. Go out and sit and take a nature walk. Just to enjoy
Yes.
what's in front of you. There's See what the wonderful world of creation is. It's not just people. There's so many wonderful things around us for us to enjoy. So, and we have talked a lot about writing down a gratitude journal, just doing some
Yeah.
journaling about positive things and so on and so forth. And yeah, meditation, positive music, and
And
that kind of thing is just wonderfully relaxing.
and actually you're talking about journaling. There have been some psychological studies recently that have shown that journaling is so powerful, it doesn't even have to be a gratitude journal, or you don't even have to focus on positivity. Just the act of writing down what went on today and just going with the flow, just writing your thoughts down. It has become so powerful, and there is so much psychological evidence about the benefits of it that Apple, in the new iPhone and iPad operating systems, are including a new journaling app that's tied into their health ecosystem. So it is becoming so important. It's like, yes, you can do it on your phone, do it on your computer. Take a notebook, a legal pad, and just start writing. And it helps get your thoughts out so you're not going over them over and over, because that's where the negativity really starts affecting your health, is that snowball effect where you keep thinking about it and you can't get it out of your head, so you're thinking about it more and more. Get it out of your head by just writing it down.
Yeah, and journaling, I think those of you who have listened to us before know that I've been keeping what I call my gratitude journal for 9 years running now. It's crazy. And I do it in an Excel spreadsheet. And pardon me for those who I'm repeating this for, but basically there's just two columns, one for the date and one for a comment. And I've been doing that for 9 years. And what I do every single day is I'm able to go back and see what happened today for the last 9 years. And I could have been anticipating a trip or a wonderful thing that's been going on in life and so on and so forth, or somebody I interacted with that I had totally forgotten about. And just reading about that, it does two things. It takes you away from any negativity that's going on. But number two, it just makes you realize, hey, I got some really, really great things going on and to be grateful for, even if it's just what we had for dinner. And lobsters were on sale for $5.99 5 years ago. Now they're 10 times as much. I mean, these are things that can be celebrated and really put things in perspective, because obviously we're more bombarded with stuff than we ever have been right now. And just getting back to the basics is so, so important. So yeah, as Eric said, it's as simple as taking out a sheet of paper and just writing things down. But if you put it in some electronic format where you can go back and read that instead of spending that time looking at Facebook posts from people who are negative, it's a great way to spend a few minutes.
Absolutely. And again, I keep repeating this, but it's so important that it bears repeating that the biggest problem with the negative mindset is that snowball effect, that the more negativity you deal with, the more negative you can become. And it's so important to break the cycle. I found a number of years ago that was the end of the year, was very busy, and I realized I was just off my game and I could not figure out why. And finally, it dawned on me that I had gotten so busy that I wasn't taking time to meditate, to exercise, and that had the cumulative effect. As soon as I realized it that day, I did a quick workout. I think it was 5 minutes. I did 20 minutes of meditation. And just that little bit was able to start getting me back on track. You need to break the cycle of negativity. And that means, if there are people in your life that are constantly being negative, it's time to walk away or tell them, look, I cannot handle your constant negativity. It's not good for either of us. But now things are getting so serious that people are referring to this as an epidemic. And when it gets that bad, it means that for a lot of us, we can't get out of the cycle on our own. And that means asking for help. And for a lot of people, that's difficult. But you can talk to friends and family. If you need more professional help, seek out a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or even, a really good coach can help you get through these things. But there is nothing wrong with asking for help. And that's something else. We're all brought up, oh, you need to be self-reliant and you need to, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps and just get things done. If it's overwhelming, if you feel like you cannot get past this, then ask for help. There are hotlines in most states. I believe in most of America, there is the 211 hotline that will connect you to mental health professionals that can talk to you on the phone. You can now get connected with mental health professionals through apps. Or if you need, go to talk to your doctor and get a referral. But don't be afraid to ask for help. There is nothing wrong with needing help.
No, we are all human. We all do need that from time to time. And obviously, we talked about negativity being a supposed epidemic. I mean, if you believe what you see all over in the media and so on and so forth, it's been an epidemic for a long, long time because that's just what we're constantly exposed to. So you have to look for other areas to see the way the world really is. There's read a little article about overcoming negativity, and a couple of the points here. Number one is to learn to recognize what is real, see both the good and the bad in the world. The more you become a realistic optimist, the more you will be able to focus on the energy of the positive, which is what is out there. And then living in the present moment, which we talk about all the time. Negativity is a habit, so is positivity. We talk all the time about developing the positive mindset. And then I like this next one, turn your negativity into action. Experiencing negative emotions and thoughts is inevitable, but positive thinkers know how to turn these into action. For example, you can look in a mirror and see that you gained a little bit of weight and so on and so forth, and bang, you start going on a physical fitness routine to lose things. But anyway, you can turn it around. And then, as you already mentioned, very, very importantly, spending time with uplifting people. Negativity is contagious, and so is positivity. And if you hang around with people who are positive and make it a point yourself not to do the yes buts with them every time they talk about positivity, in other words, really, really absorb what they're like, that's the most important thing. I mean, there are people who you're obviously just attracted to just because of who they are. Reach out to those people. They're there to help you unconditionally because that's who they are. And that's in everybody too. Because once you've experienced it and start developing it yourself, there are so many wonderful stories about there that you hear from people about how they've turned their lives around and how bad it was, and how they are sharing it forward 1,000 times over now just because of the way they handled it.
Yes, let's be clear. You mentioned a term that I think is very important for people to understand, and that's realistic optimism. There actually is something called toxic positivity. Truly positive people with a real positive mindset don't turn their minds off to the fact that there are problems. It's about how you deal with the problems. People who ignore problems, that's not a positive mindset. That's actually more of a negative mindset because you're trying not to deal with those problems instead of handling them. And you get the same effects from this toxic positivity that you do from a negative mindset. It increases the stress. When you're talking to people, you don't have to pretend that everything is rosy and the world is this, all rainbows and flowers. We all know that there are tough situations out there. Being positive is about accepting those situations and trying to fix them, not arguing about them, not fighting about them, but taking action to truly make things better. And when you make something better, even if it's just a little thing, it makes you feel better. And that helps break that snowball cycle and turn it around so that you can get positivity snowballing. So we are just about at the end of our time. So Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for our listeners this week?
Well, we've talked about all the negative stuff, and basically living in the present moment is the most important thing that you can do. Realizing if you chunk it down, even if you're in the worst state ever, if you chunk it down into just present moment experiences, realizing that however you respond to that is going to be the outcome that you get. And remember the old Lao Tzu mantra that I have talked about many, many times. If you take each moment first with simplicity, just dumbing what happened down to a small thing. Number two, patience, taking that deep pause. And that deep pause is the simplest form of meditation, is to just pause and don't think about it, put it in perspective. That then most important, if you treat every situation with compassion, which is the optimistic side of things and the love side and so on and so forth, starting with yourself, that is the most important thing that you can do. Get yourself out of this funk, even if it's just for one present moment at a time. It's a start.
Yeah, that's so important. I think for me, the big thing that I want people to take away is that negativity is a perception, not reality. And perceptions can be changed. You can get rid of that negativity. It's not going to be simple. It's not a matter of snapping your fingers and all of a sudden you're positive. But you can make the effort to change that perception. And if you need help, if you need somebody to get you through it, there is nothing wrong with asking for help, whether it's from a friend, a family member, a coach, a psychologist, whoever it is that you need help from. Don't feel bad about asking. Mental health is about health. You wouldn't feel bad about going on a diet to drop a few pounds or going to the doctor when you're suffering from an illness. Mental health is the same way. You need to treat it, you need to work on it to stay healthy. And if you need help, by all means, ask for it. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.